Hello everyone, it's Tuesday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I'm Mariah Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. Hello. YK in the building.
Good morning.
Hi, YK. How was your weekend?
Fine, thank you. Fine, thank you, Jerry. Let me give you one gist. What happened to me on Sunday come Monday? I went to bed. I was really tired because I went to bed late because we know my brother plays on Sundays. Right. And I crashed out, and then I woke up in the middle of the night to go to the loo. I must have been sleepwalking because I walked into the door and I cut my nipple.
Ooh, YK, please, information. Because we're not imagining it.
I don't know which door I walked into.
YK.
Wait, did you bang it?
I banged, I banged into the door. And, I even thought it was a dream till I was sleeping. When I lay on my stomach.
I think you now need a visit to Surulere at Dr. Femi's place.
For what?
At that place that you
know what?
into the
This is what I think you should do. Just imagine it was a baby that was breastfeeding and beat you. that makes it easier. That's what I go through. It makes it easier.
No, it wasn't funny.
Sorry.
And then when I was having my bath in the morning, I was like, oh.
So Oga can't go there. Oga can't go there.
Oh, no. God.
I had to,
You just said TMI.
nothing for anybody, nothing for anybody.
All right, how you doing? She started it too. I didn't start this wahala. She started it.
Oh, your mind.
I'm telling you.
So don't you respect?
I've been quarreling with all the doors in my room now. Which door did I walk into? I don't even know the door.
There are too many doors, actually.
How you doing? How you doing, Nima?
Nima is fine. So it's three. I have three things to talk about. Two are shout-outs and one is a rant.
Nima, you could ask 1,000
Hold
naira.
on.
500 naira per shout
So I
out.
want to shout out to
1,000 naira.
Professor Charles Akombi,
500 naira.
Akombi
Okay.
from the University of Ife, Food Science Technology.
Where do you know this from?
That's my dad. My dad's best friend. I spent my holidays there. And he sent me a message that, on one of the shows he watched that, he's so proud. And really, really lifted my spirit. So thank you, Daddy. Thank you for, supporting me.
Okay, number two.
Words. The second one is a shout out to Simi, the singer. Thank you for being the odd one standing out for the truth person.
A lone voice in the
The
wilderness.
lone voice in the wilderness. No matter what they say to you, you are not the enemy, like you said. You're a correct person. You are the only correct person if they don't want to agree.
Okay.
Then the third one is an appeal to the kidnappers of the head of the fire service in Lagos State to please. I read the story this morning. The families are not, taking this thing easily.
We'll take it in the papers.
Please, you should release this person.
Let's Miriam talk.
How you doing, Mariam?
I'm doing good. So for me, I think we need to talk about women, successful Nigerian women, and reading about them. I'm not talking of like stories that's written about them. I mean, they should tell their stories. Over the weekend, I started reading this Michelle Obama's book, Becoming. And the way she told the story, and the way she told the story resonated with me. I'm sure it will resonate with all of us here. She did not call, she didn't tell her story from like a self-help point of view, where you say where you go 5 steps to becoming, or 1 step to becoming, but it was just her daily struggle, vis-a-vis her husband's ambitions and his goals. And I would like to hear more of that kind of stories from our own. YK, we need to read your story from your own mouth. Yes, we need your book.
I told you my story. I walked into the door in the middle of the night.
We need to know your
and I'm
daily
going to the
struggle,
local
how you're
government
making it.
today because of those shops in front of my house.
Why can't stop downplaying this thing?
Yeah.
When Madi sat on this table, I just, saw the work you've done. For a young man to say, by looking at just the pictures on the wall, he wondered and saw the kind of role models he should see growing up. No, stop. And the kind of talk about yourself, YK. Make some noise.
I walked into a door.
Please, Nigerian women, tell your stories so that we can read them and be inspired by them and be motivated.
All right.
Okay, but I would like to read that book.
Yeah, okay, when I'm done, I'll give it to
Actually,
you.
what happened was that when it came out, there was an online one that went out. Everybody told us to delete it. We shouldn't read it
Yeah, I
because
didn't.
I deleted it. But now somebody's got me the book.
Okay.
Because
it's unfair.
Unfair. Piracy is,
Piracy
I don't do anything that is piracy, that is involved with piracy. I do not. I do not read it. I do not watch it. I don't encourage my friends. I have one friend that insists on watching, so I always abuse him every day.
Yeah. When I got the online version, I just deleted it. Yeah. I mean, that we shouldn't do that to authors.
Yes.
Yeah. So the phone has stopped in my house. Our guests have gone back, so the children are now back to the 2 weeks. It's not short.
Oh, you will miss them.
It's a long
Children
time.
will miss them.
The
God.
children's phone has come back to Nigeria for now. You know?
children have picked
Oh, they're not, of course, from day 2. My kids started speaking, Mama, me? Yeah, because, so, now that they've gone, we're back to, Mommy, please, can I have some bread? Oh, for now, has disappeared a bit.
Do you know if the other kids picked up our own accent?
Honestly, I don't think they did, because my kids were just so easy to just adopt theirs.
You know, my mother had a very British accent, you know. So my daughter was with my mother a lot. Then she would ask my mother, Annan, why do Nigerians say football? And you say football.
Good question.
Why do Nigerians say cornflakes? And you say cornflakes.
Well, I had one that you guys said
My
today.
daughter, by herself, she now decided to follow, not our own.
Yeah.
She followed my mother's accent.
So there's something that you people say in Lagos, grandmother. I can't understand why you say
What's the
grandmother.
word?
Grandmother.
Yeah.
I hear it all the time.
Instead of the.
Yeah.
It's enough. It's Tuesday, please.
Okay.
Let's calm down. Let's go on a break.
But
All these lamentations. When we come back, we look through the front pages of the newspapers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
that's the appeasement.
Okay, we're starting with The Nation today. Bandits killed 20 in Kaduna. The attackers stormed the village and they were shooting indiscriminately, and everybody started running to the bush. Buhari decries use of cyberspace to manipulate elections. Governors, senators gang up against Magu. 2 Nigerians stabbed to death in South Africa. World Bank cuts growth forecast to 28%, and fire got Imo Airport arrival terminal. Okay, so which story are we going with?
So the
Kaduna?
Yes. This is in Kajuru. It's been in the news for some time now.
Right.
So they said that Fulani, well, allegedly, the Fulani headsmen, they said they were dressed in military outfits, and some of them even had bulletproof vests. They got into the village and started shooting randomly. Some of the villagers said that they had heard that it was going to happen, and they had talked about it, but the government didn't do anything about it. Some of the people are saying that they do not like the way the governor is handling it. He seems to be biased, but well, that is like their own opinion. But so many people were killed, people ran into the bushes, and this is happening again. And this is just another story, another day, the same thing, different dates, over and over again.
This is surprising to me. You know why? Because I watched the governor on TV this morning. He was practically crying. He looked really worried. But if the villagers are saying they had warned the police or whoever before it happened, then there should have been no reason for it to happen. Security personnel should have been
On ground.
Yeah.
You know why, Kid? The problem is this particular village is attacked continuously. So how come there's no security around that particular? Because it's like a point of, you know...
Kaduna has been in the news since
like a
before the
flashpoint. So,
elections.
exactly. So why isn't there like constant security in that village?
Or patrol, something
Yes.
like that. Yeah.
Unfortunately, lives were lost on that. Let's move on now to Vanguard. Insecurity worsens. I think we mentioned some of it. Why I'm yet to be married, says Don Jazzy. Alleged poisoning of OAU dam is absurd and unfounded, says Oni. Rivers polls, PDP blackmailing South Supreme Court Justice, says APC. Kidnapped fire boss. Was kidnapped, anxiety, fear, grief, family, and co-workers, which was what you were talking about earlier. And then the slain doctor, how we battled to save his life. That was a very touching story. Ndume meets Oshimbajo, says no stepping down for Lawan, and Chairman Chuku to be flown abroad. Onyegu is Zenith Bank's new GMD. Okay, let me start with that story of the Luth doctor. He was 25-year-old. He was right the day after his graduation, and he came to med school, and he was stabbed by hoodlums. I think it was with his girlfriend. And the doctor was, the CMD was actually trying to tell his mother, that his parents, his family, that 200 doctors were on standby to save his life. Everybody, they kept trying to give him CPR, to get, they exhausted 12 pints of blood. Wow. Just to tell just to save him, you know, and it was really, really painful. It was a painful death for them, and they're all in mourning at this time. Really sad story.
I heard that the police have picked up some suspects around this.
Yeah.
Hope that they're the right ones and that we have a proper conviction.
Okay, the story about the kidnap.
The kidnap, yeah.
You have that story.
The Lagos bus. So was Commissioner of Police for Lagos immediately rolled out a team yesterday to find out the kidnappers of this police bus. And as it is now,
Bus, fire.
Sorry,
Alongside
fire
6
service
others,
bus. Yeah, 6 others, and their names were in the paper yesterday. And this is.
Okay, let's move on to the Punch. Nigeria's economy slipping, says World Bank. Lagos bricklayer gets life sentence for defiling 7-year-old. Picture here, passengers flee as fire raises Imo Airport. National Assembly, we aren't in a hurry to release zoning formula, says APC. 18 die in Ogun, Niger, actually, as tipper and lorry crashes into Dangote truck.
Sad.
25th killed in fresh Kaduna attacks. And Ndume meets Osinbajo, says he's actually still in the race for the Senate presidency. And policeman vice principal, 4 others killed in Ondo robbery. Okay.
Quickly,
So
the defilement.
Yes. So a man named Idowu Bolahon, 30 years old, has been sentenced to life imprisonment. He defiled his 7-year-old niece. She had gone into her grandmother's room to drink water, and he grabs her and forcefully has his way with her. Her screams alerted the neighbors, and that was how she was saved. Thank God she's been sentenced, but I cannot imagine, for me, clearly this is a case of someone who is mentally unwell, because you were not trying to hide it, you did it like in the open.
Whether
you grab your own niece.
This is a landmark judgment for this. This is enough.
Life sentence.
Yeah, a life sentence, because they will treat it as a defilement of an underage.
Yeah.
But, this is enough for it. We don't want to be hearing sentences of like 14 years or 11 years for this kind of cases. So I'm happy about what the judge has, the decision the judge reached.
There was fire in the Imo Airport yesterday.
Yesterday.
It started about 2:10, and it raged for 50 minutes before they came to
Rescue.
nobody lost their lives. We thank God for that. But
The governor was there too, right there, I heard. He came, the governor, Governor Rochester,
and
Witnesses.
a lot of equipment and
but
building infrastructure.
Yeah, but also I think the witnesses said thanks to the fire service, they did a good job. That
About
even though
50 minutes.
Yes, even after that, it would have been worse, they said, if they were not there.
Then 2 Nigerians were
took
killed.
so long.
2 Nigerians were killed in South Africa. Who has that story? Xenophobic attacks again?
Yeah, their names. 2 Nigerians were attacked in South Africa in similar style, followed to their houses by South Africans and, stabbed in front of their houses for no clear reason. And they were just killed. Of course, it's xenophobic as the papers have described it. This is another case. Was increasing number of Nigerians being attacked in South Africa for reasons we don't know. The second person had 3 black South Africans on his tail till they stabbed him to death.
Colored.
I had their names.
Yes, okay, the names are Mr. Bonny Ihuoha, he's a 48-year-old from Imo State. And then the second is Goziem Akpenyi, who also lost their lives.
Very sad.
May their souls rest in peace.
We used to...
Justice.
We should
actually ask for justice for these people, because
I wonder
all the other stories.
What's the update?
No,
was anybody
nothing.
arrested?
We had a young man, a Nigerian, who continued to follow these stories in the past in South Africa and made sure we had details. And even then, we didn't have prosecution they were as prosecution, but we didn't have convictions of South Africans. And we wanted our government to take a stand against this and compel the government to do the proper thing. Just like they're attacking Nigerian investors there. They have investments here, and their businesses, they are growing because we are more accommodating and,
So we need, one is, it's painful that it seems as if nothing has been done, but we need to get follow-up and maybe call in the special advisor.
Or the NGO, the guy that,
to give us an update on what's going on with these cases. Let's move on now to the Nigerian Tribune. Ndume meets Osinbajo, vows not to step down. 2019 budget, reps summon minister over alleged transfer of 1.4 billion naira. Robbers kill policeman, bank officials, 4 others in Ondo attack. Who read that story? I think that's actually all of the papers. Rivers election, Supreme Court strikes out the Magos case, Magnus Abe's case. Kebbi spends 280 million naira monthly on school feeding. Wow. And Nigeria's economy is slipping, says World Bank. All right, let's take the Ondo. Who has the Ondo story?
Okay,
Start with that.
Okay,
Okay, go ahead, Miriam.
Okay, so in Ondo State, Ido Ani Ose local government.
Oh,
Sorry.
gosh, I'm sure you murdered that. I don't even...
So
You do Annie?
Ido Ani, okay.
Yeah,
Ose, or is it Oshe local government?
Yeah, whatever. But
Okay, so well, this is a sad story. Armed robbers attacked a bank in the town, and the way they got in, they used like dynamite, broke the door down. 2 of the staff, bank staff, were killed. People using the ATM just around there were killed because of the explosion, and then they also shot a few people around there. And they were able to do that within an hour and get away. Luckily, they said one of the armed robbers was caught by police or a military man. No, he was caught. He was caught alive.
Is there.
let's move on now to Daily Sun. There's a story that is interesting there. Igbo insists on 2023 presidency. One is the other's false plot against Southeast producing next president. And 2 Nigerians murdered by South Africa. We talked about that. 9th Senate. Southeast should produce Deputy Senate President, says Kalu. I'm not in alliance with opposition, says Ndume. And policeman 8 killed in Ondo robbery. Senator-elect Kalu was saying that in the interest of fairness, justice, that they should zone the deputy Senate presidency to the Southeast. Yes, politics, he didn't say this, but yes, politics is a game of numbers. It's about how many people you have, but
for proper balance.
For the proper balance and justice and fairness, so that at least people know they don't feel totally out of the entire circle, and it's only fair for them to do the right thing by ensuring that the Deputy Senate presidency is zoned to the Southeast.
Do you know who they're asking to?
I haven't seen.
Considering.
So far, it's been the Senate presidency that we're going back and forth on.
I read somewhere about who they wanted, or did I listen to the news?
There was somewhere that was saying that was Northwest or something like that, but he was just saying that let's do the right thing, at least doing it. And I think many Nigerians would agree that let's just be fair.
So the 8th Assembly was
Southeast, but a different party. So.
All right. That's all we can take on Front Page Review. When we come back, we have a lineup of hot topics. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So one of the stories that caught our attention is that of a medical director who bans his staff from treating a police officer after his unpleasant experience in his own case. According to him, the medical doctor narrated how the inhumane actions of the police killed his own late father and grandmother back in 2015. This later forced him to take a decision never to treat or even any member of the families in case of emergency. What are your thoughts on this? Should doctors treat police officers in case of emergency, especially using this as a case in point? You can call us 070-806-68014. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag your TVC so we can read your tweet. Now, this story was online and everyone was reacting to it and saying, how can you do that? Yes, some said, oh, it's good for them because they always kill people indiscriminately. But what are your general thoughts, of people's reaction to this? I was really shocked that people would actually say, don't treat a police officer. Did you read the story? And
I read the story.
I wasn't shocked.
He's going from his personal experience, but he's forgotten about the Hippocratic oath that he took, I can understand his personal feelings, but he's obliged. And you cannot, to me, you can't star everybody with the same, don't generalize. There are some good policemen. Yeah. Not all policemen are bad. That's not to say that they're all good, but there are some good ones. So what if that one that he's refusing to treat is actually a good man or who was actually defending someone who was attacked?
And then
because when you look at the video where a policeman, it was actually a customs officer that shot somebody dead point blank, you see why people just say, why do I even go and help? But at the same time, humans are humans regardless. You can't judge them. You can't be judge and jury in this kind of situation. But let me let Nima share her thoughts on this.
The sad point is that he would be paying the innocent person or making the innocent person pay for the crime of the guilty one. If he could only pick out the set of police officers involved in this rather than generalize, I would understand. Like YK said, he has an oath that he has to uphold, and you cannot close your... They say if you close your eyes for bad person to pass, good person will go as well. There are days when you actually need police officers to bail you out of cases like this, and they do a good job. Because of those one-off cases that you know, and you cannot say that he's never heard. It might be true that he's never seen. His experience is really terrible. I believe that he should do a proper petition, and these days of social media, raise the issue, call out the police officers, because there are bad eggs in this basket.
This brings me back to, I remember when the police started this reorientation, and when we just started bringing in the CSP, the Darko Badman's issue, and she was trying to say, okay, we want to clean up the police, we want to try to change people's perception of the police. In the last 2-3 years that we've seen them try to change the uniforms, to go for training, do you think they are making headway? Do you think they actually, yes, it's gradual, but we're getting there? Or do you feel it's impossible to actually fix the police?
I don't think it is impossible to fix the police, but I think that the way they're going about it is totally wrong, so nobody has really seen any...
any reason to actually trust the police?
Because they have to start from the bottom. The orientation, they have to start and then build it up. If they don't do that, it's like when they were saying, what was that thing we were saying? Rebrand. Rebranding is, change it, don't rebrand it. Because if you put a cup of urine in here, and I rebrand it, it will still remain.
Oh, the national orientation that was it, that we wanted to... Great colonial country, good nation, something like that.
I remember I was saying at that time, it's not about rebranding. Right. It's about changing that thing that is, change that urine.
So, Mariam, this doctor in particular we're talking about has banned
his hospital.
Yeah,
his hospital.
For me, it doesn't make any sense. I would rather, he said, the reason I stopped being a medical doctor was because I cannot bring myself to treat police officers, because if I see a police officer, I might put him in harm's way, or I might not do my job diligently. So I've taken myself out of this situation. Than for him to say that, and I think that he puts himself in trouble to come out and say this, really, because you then your license should be revoked. I understand where he's coming from. He's coming from a place of hurt, so you can find a different way to do it. You want to work with the police? We see them. I always call America. How they do it? You set up like an NGO, a foundation where you work with the police on how to treat people better.
Hurt people, hurt others.
Yes, and help as you were saying, it's not just about branding. I have seen police officers, they seem to be more polite, they look better, but yet you still find those bad eggs. And the thing with the police is that they come from Nigeria, from Nigerians, from the citizens. So it's people like you and I already, it's us. So
one of the reasons why we're having this conversation,
is for all of us.
Is help the police identify what the problem is, which I think is fantastic, like you just said.
I wanted to say something. Some years back, my husband and his company, they were supposed to do some sort of work at police barracks, and he showed me some really sad pictures where these people stay with their families. You have water dripping. They practically have no toilet. This is where they live. This is where they give birth to their children, and their children grow up. So we need to understand that apart from just changing their uniforms and making them look neat,
there should be dignity in labor.
Yes, there should be dignity. We should start the police college.
After the documentary,
there are no mattresses. The food, you have like 20 people on just like rice, no stew, and then 2 pieces of fish.
Thank you for buttressing the point I made. We've always, demeaned them. We've treated them badly. We've never made the job dignifying enough for them.
No, not we, the government.
I think corruption.
All of us are governments now.
No,
there's some government.
After that documentary, there was
our government. I'm not government, I beg.
There was a hashtag. Then, that this thing should be done holistically and sincerely. It should be done. But we still see the situation continue. There's a picture that happened that surfaced online of the police station at Port Harcourt, looking the same way you just described. So we can't
round up on this, but I think we actually need to do a show separately where we talk about the police and try to profess solutions and suggestions on what they must do
a documentary of police stations around.
I think that documentary exists in different ways, but we can also still do others.
We'll do more.
Because the truth is that we need to fight this from different angles. Yes, the police will do theirs, but we need to help ourselves understand and listen. If we treat them right, maybe they'll treat us better.
Or maybe we should do a video like Success is so.
Name is very important. Nigerian police force should be changed. Just the Nigerian police. Names are important. See, this guy used to wear Shuibi. His name was Good Luck. He became president. Success was just working, and she became successful.
Maybe the good luck force, the success force.
All right.
Names are very
Thank you very much,
important.
Waigi. Let's go on a break now. When we come back, we continue with the show. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So yesterday, we started a conversation on the Federal University of Technology Owerri students who allegedly took drugs in order to enjoy a group sex. On the show today, we'll be discussing with our guests how to curb the usage of drugs amongst young people. Joining us on the show is the General Secretary, Nakonan Nigeria Initiative, Fakbonda Ayodeji. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Thank you.
You can call us on 070-806-68014. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweets. This issue that happened in Futo caught everybody by storm, and everybody was really, really shocked at the revelation that incident showed, that kids are not just drugs, but there's now an issue of group sex. Now, you have this initiative you started all the way back in secondary school. Let me start from the basics. Why did you start it? What did you see? And how far have you come? What have you seen so far in schools that made you feel that this initiative was very important to start?
Well, thank you for having me. I joined 2008. So that was when our ED, Professor Mr. Taiwa, came back all the way from South Africa for a year course on drug rehabilitation. He's a specialist. So I joined them because I've seen lot of things going bad in our community, in our society. The government can't do it alone. So now the initiative came for me because I stay in Oshodi. I grew up in Oshodi. The Oshodi of when Ashwaji was the governor. So it's very, very, very bad area, very notorious area for drugs and all of that. So, and the police are not helping matters. The security agencies know that they are trying their possible best, but somebody has to do something.
Okay, you struck a chord with me when you said it enhances creativity, because we see people like Burna Boy, we see people who openly, blatantly, you see them use alcohol and drugs and the whole work, and young people see that and say, you know what, for me to get that success, for me to be creative, to let the lyrics come from heaven, I need to be on that level. And that's something, that for me, that's a point we need to really take and really help these young people to change their mindset towards that. But in building that creativity, what have you done to help them understand that it doesn't necessarily build creativity?
You see, immediately we finished our program, someone, we have some youth. Someone said to me, but why, whenever they take those drugs, although for a period of that point in time, you forget your sorrow. But after a while, the drugs wears off, and you're back to square zero with more ailments. At times, you have headache and sort of side effects. There are side effects attached to it. So why taking them? Yeah. That is what we are telling them. Why taking those drugs?
It does not. Okay, so for me, you said you saw a problem in your community in Oshodi.
Yes, ma'am.
And immediately, I would like to. So you saw people taking drugs. Did you see those selling drugs? And what was done at that time to those selling drugs? Is it enough to just tell people don't take drugs when there are people selling them? If there's no one selling them, they won't have access to them.
As Maternal Nigeria Initiative, we are an NGO. We are not government officials. Yeah. Okay. When we see cases like that, we make a report to the next police station. We make a report to the NDLA or NAFDAC, just to come and weigh them and all sorts of things. But what we do is, we have a program, Catch Them Young. We go into the community, we go into primary schools, secondary schools, and tertiary institutions. We have some sort of communities whereby students that are just entering into university, we have this jam-based classes for them all over Lagos. So we go to.
How effective has your awareness been so far, in the sense that in your community, let's take Oshodi as a case study, has it reduced the use of drugs in that area because you started your awareness?
Yes, I would say we've had success stories all over the years. We've had success stories. How many have you rehabilitated? Yes, we've had about 2 or 3 persons to South Africa. Even those persons we referred till today, I haven't seen them. They just called, they got our contact from the email address and they put a call through, then we do the...
These are drug users?
Yes,
Okay.
the parents filled, you know, someone called. I saw your phone number on your website, and can you help me? Can you do this? Can you do that? I said, fine. What's the problem? Then we talked on phone. Then after the whole whatever we referred them to South Africa. We have a rehabilitation home in South Africa.
Have a partnership for rehabilitation there?
Yes, that is where that's the sister body for Northern Nigeria directly.
Where do we rehabilitate them?
We refer them to South Africa. For now, our rehabilitation.
South Africa?
Yes.
So if you find somebody doing drugs here, you fly them over to South Africa?
We educate them, we talk to them, then we talk to the parent. This is beyond just talking. You need help.
So this rehabs in Nigeria?
In Nigeria, we are not sure of, you know, the way they do things in Nigeria. How will somebody's on drugs? This person needs help. Have you ever been to all these psychiatric homes? Do you look at the way they treat those patients?
Okay.
So why South Africa? Is it an NGO, another NGO in South Africa that
That's
rehabilitates?
not canon South Africa.
No, okay, it's an international body.
Yes,
and there's a
we have no canon South Europa, we have no canon international, we have no canon Egypt.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
In Africa, we're just...
So your NGO pays for this trip?
The person pays. This is an NGO.
Okay.
The person pays.
The user who wants rehabilitation
You
pays.
get the visa for them.
We just assist them.
You get the visa for them.
No. They do that all that by themselves. We only just, you know.
Okay. So, but I guess one of the reasons why we brought you on is to share with us your experiences so far, especially in your constituency, Oshodi, how what you've observed, because we're still going to be bringing in people, experts, who can help to rehabilitate young people, who are doing great things to bring young people back to sanity, okay, I would say. So we just wanted you to share your own experience so far, because you work with lots of young people, and because you said you joined this initiative since quite a long time ago, and we just wanted you to share with us, and thank you very much for coming. We're going to go on a break, and when we come back, we'll continue the show. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So according to UNICEF, every single day Nigeria loses about 145 women of childbearing age, making her the largest, no, the second largest actually contributor to maternal mortality rate in the world. Joining us on the show to address issues of maternal mortality is the Director of Programs, Nigeria Health Watch, Vivian Ihekwezu. Welcome to the show. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, ladies.
When I read these reports, I mean, for me, it was staggering to know that women still die out of childbirth in Nigeria. The numbers are still alarming, and you think that by now, it shouldn't be such a big problem. In your view, what do you think is causing this at this point?
Well, thank you again as for having me on. Nigeria Health Watch is working in a consortium with 3 other organizations, EpiAfrique, Africare, and Nigeria Health Watch, as I said. And we're launching a new project looking to catalyze accountability for maternal deaths in Nigeria. As you mentioned, the stats are staggering. In Nigeria, 58,000 women die annually while giving birth. We account for 19% of total maternal deaths in the world. These are staggering statistics. And the reasons are multiple, starting from the fact that, looking at Nigeria, 35% of women give birth in health facilities. So what that now means is 65% of women are not giving birth in health facilities. They're giving birth in communities. And as such, the deaths are unreported, unaccounted, and we don't know the reasons for deaths. So this project we're launching is looking to make sure there's more accountability when women die. And so it's focused very much on the community.
Okay. So why is it important to have accountability on deaths? You know, people would say would want to forget it and move on. Why is it important to put them down and name them?
You raise a very good point, because when we say accountability, that accountability refers to reporting a death. So in a health facility, currently in Nigeria, there is a system that health facilities use, the MPDSR system, maternal perinatal death surveillance reporting. So when a woman dies in a hospital, there's documentation on how she died, the reasons, the story, her journey. In the community, that doesn't happen. So when a woman dies in the community, you don't know why. So if 65% of women are giving birth outside of health facilities with unskilled health workers, we don't know the reason. So the accountability refers to making sure that as citizens, as Nigerians, the deaths are reported, and so the reasons
As you've said,
are solved.
as you said, 65% of Nigerian women do not use health facilities, and more alarming is the numbers of women who don't use public health facilities up north. So when the provision is made, there's a cultural discouraging factor against using it. Now, I was watching that survey, the documentary on the BBC, and I said to my husband that when you go within families, you'll be shocked to hear, why do you want to go to the hospital? I gave birth to your husband at home. So maybe she had one of those serious cases of preeclampsia, placenta previa, those cases that are the exception to anybody having natural delivery, normal delivery, and because she must obey culturally. So I want to know what your establishment is doing to change the mindset of people culturally. Are you going into those houses, speaking their languages to them, talking to the matriarch of the families, talking to the women who lead their communities to say, these are some of these instances that cost women their lives, and this is why they must go to a proper hospital?
You're very right. I mean, the project we're doing is across 6 geopolitical zones. So we'll be in Kebbi, we'll be in Niger, we'll be in Bayelsa, Ebonyi, Lagos, and Kebbi, as I mentioned. And the project will be working in the communities. So we'll have community-based organizations working with the communities to collect stories. You referred to story collecting earlier. And it's important that people are sensitized to the need for women to go for antenatal, because it's at that stage that you catch whether she has any complications in pregnancies. And you're very right, it's a very complicated issue. And we know that traditionally women for generations give birth within the communities. That is a challenge, obviously, because within the community, if there is a complication, that's not caught early enough. So by the time she ends up, if she does reach a medical facility, you don't know. So we need to change the narrative of how...
When I was reading about this research, I can't remember the term they use. I think is postpartum hemorrhage. Is that correct?
PPH, yes.
So that is what causes most deaths.
And it's preventable.
And it's preventable. So that's the sad part of it.
That's the sad part, yes.
So the fact that postpartum hemorrhage, where the woman loses lots of blood, is preventable. In these rural areas, where blood is probably not available, what are we doing to get blood to ensure these things are reduced or drastically?
Okay. As you mentioned, in a lot of northern communities, our health systems are very weak. And in a lot of them, we need the government to pay a lot more attention to making sure that every woman has access to health facilities. It was very encouraging that yesterday the MPHCDA, National Public Health Development Agency, is launching a campaign or is launching a new strategy to advocate for, to actually improve maternal health outcomes. I mean, the details, will be forthcoming from that agency, but there clearly is a sense of emergency. So they're treating it almost like how they treat polio, as a singular health emergency. But we need our health systems to be strengthened and for all women to have access to trained...
There's also the alternative.
Let me take this call from Olabisi. Are you still there?
Yes, hello.
Yes.
Good morning.
Morning. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm a first caller.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome. I want to say that the health service facility in Nigeria, the money that the maternity people pay in the hospitals is too much. They go to all these herbal places, the money they pay is actually more than in the hospitals.
Did you hear that? Thank you very much.
Affordability is just a very critical issue, which is why we're pushing for universal health coverage. There should be no user fees. Women should not have to pay when they go to hospitals. The National Health Act launched in 2014. One of the focuses of it was a basic health care provision fund. So this is something that we're now pushing for. And within that, there'll be a basic package of care that all people would be entitled to. And within that, antenatal care, maternal to delivery, we should be part of it. But we need women to have free health care.
I want to ask you something because
That deserves a clap, please. Free healthcare. I think we should tell us,
when I had my baby, my baby's 31 years old now.
Baby, 31 years, not months.
They waited they used an enema for me.
Yeah.
This same baby had a baby, just had a baby, and in England, she had her baby in England, and I saw that there was nothing like enema. They allow, it's called the meconium.
Yes, meconium.
I don't know if they've started doing that in Nigeria.
But the meconium inhalation, because that's quite dangerous.
Yeah, but it's from the meconium that they know that the baby is okay. This is what they said in the hospital in England. Here, you're not allowed.
How old, at what stage did they do this?
When she was in labor.
Okay, when she was in labor. Okay.
And then when the meconium came out, they said that the baby is good.
Okay, I see.
But here, I don't know if they still do it.
Yes.
I have to ask the new mothers.
Please help us to break.
Me, we are speaking French.
You see,
Meconium inhalation can be quite dangerous. Because when a woman
help us to break it down for layman's terms.
When you say meconium, if you mean meconium inhalation, when
Not the inhalation.
Yes.
It comes out of you.
Yes.
And they call it the baby's first poo.
Yes, exactly, which is quite dangerous if it's ingested by the baby.
Right.
So
Yes, if it is ingested
my son
by
had
the
it, and he
baby.
was in intensive care actually for that.
Wow.
So that can be quite dangerous.
Right. So how do
you mean the amniotic fluid or the meconium?
No, the meconium.
So these are complications that cannot happen in rural areas.
Yes.
Because kind of meconium,
You wouldn't know.
The baby would, you wouldn't
That's
know.
the thing, you wouldn't know. So complications.
So my question is, we're talking about the North, and a lot of people do not get to use approved health centers or go to health centers. So I'm wondering how Health Watch is going to do this. Isn't this going to be a big challenge? Are you working with health centers, or are you going home to home?
I'll take a break. You answer the question after the break. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Okay.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So we still have our guest with us. Yes, I think Mariam had a question.
Okay.
I had a question.
No, I had asked her a question about working in the rural areas where if you're not working with health centers, are you going home to home to document this?
We're working with communities. So Africa, who's one of the people in the consortium, will be working with CBOs, community-based organizations, to collect data within the community of births that have happened, because as we mentioned, a lot of births are happening in the community. And part of it will be about talking about women when they're pregnant, going to health facilities. So there will be that element of
I wanted to know
community
whether
advocacy.
you're partnering, Kebbi particularly now,
Kebbi,
let's use Kebbi as a case study. Are you partnering with the government of the state to, to do this, one? Number two, if you are you suggesting that they copy the Lagos State model where traditional birth attendants are trained and equipped to do a better job because, the people trust them culturally than, the healthcare centers?
I hear you. The practice of traditional birth attendants is a very sensitive community, so it's a very sensitive issue, and many organizations, international organizations, don't advocate for CBAs. What they do, because the CBAs are trusted within the communities, so you cannot put them out of the equation. What instead you want to do with the traditional birth attendants is train them to recognize the danger signs. When a woman is in distress, go with her to a hospital. If you can't cope with it, go with her to a hospital. Don't try and solve the problem on your own, because you don't have those skills.
Right.
And it's much better when you go to the facility, go with her, because she trusts you.
Right.
And we don't want to kind of put them out of the equation.
Let me take this call from Mabel. Mabel, are you there? Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I'm a first-time caller. Good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome, Mabel.
I want to ask them to know what really they are doing, because the majority of them, they give birth in the church. And at the end of the day, they have too many complications. Even
They give birth where?
Hello?
Where do they give birth?
In the church. Some of them, they give birth in the church.
That's new.
In the church, with all these unknown people or for specialized people, they would like take the delivery maybe out of emergency or what. So what is she doing to go to churches, advertise themselves there?
Do you get this kind of case where people go to
I do. I mean, when we say 65% of women don't give birth in health facilities, this is part of it, people giving birth in church. And, you know, this is a community issue. It's not just a singular NGO government issue. Women giving birth in churches, are they trained attendants in the churches? People who go to those churches, do they have the facilities to cope if there's an adverse outcome?
Asking, are you doing anything to sensitize the churches to discontinue this?
Well, part of the work of our advocacy is encouraging women, encouraging organizations to encourage women to go to health facilities. So part of the sensitization is across, you know, the churches, within the communities. And the churches are in the community. So
are there issues of qualified, trained medical personnel? Do we have issues where people who are, we have quacks actually taking care of these births? Have you had those kind of cases, and what has been done to prosecute those kind of quacks?
In terms of prosecution, you know, it's not within our remit. We wouldn't say we don't push it. That's why I'm very careful when I use the word accountability. This project is not about calling people out. This is about us talking about and documenting those stories of why women are dying to
the
solve
final
it.
objective will be for government to change the policies around, if based on your statistics.
What's the end game?
The end game is, first of all, for us, we are all community. When you know women in your care, or you know women are pregnant, they encourage them to go to health facilities.
Okay.
Why? Because then they're in the system, the baby's born, they go through the baby's immunized, she goes to antenatal care. 56% of women do not seek antenatal care in Nigeria, which means if there are complications, those are not recorded or documented. And when we say community, it means everybody saying, we know you're pregnant, go to health facility, because that's where you can seek the care. In terms of quacks, within the health facility, the assumption is these are trained attendants. Right. We do know that in communities, people take delivery of babies, are not qualified.
So do you have some kind of feedback mechanism? Because I know that I gave birth in 2 different places. Yes. My experience in the second place is totally different from the initial one. So if I have some kind of feedback mechanism where I can say, okay, you know what, this is what happened. Maybe you can then go into that hospital and say, have them to correct the mechanism of the way they used, the way they treated me in the first instance. I know what I went through, and I know the kind of pains, the issues, and I wish, who do I report to? But it was until I went to another hospital and saw how I was properly treated, and now understood, I can understand the adverse effect I would have had if there had been complications in that first hospital. So does your organization provide some kind of way where we can communicate to you and say, okay, please go and inspect and find out what's going on in this hospital?
I think on that level, we as an organization, we're an NGO, but we don't have the remit to go to individual health facilities. But you should, if you know, I'm sure you've heard of the Patient Bill of Rights, which was recently launched. And that guarantees that if you have any issues in any hospital, you have a right to complain. I think the problem we have in Nigeria is we see too many negative stories. And a lot of times, especially when it comes to maternal deliveries, people seek closure. You don't want to talk about it, you want to move on. That, I think, is part of the problem. Or people say, you know, for other reasons, whatever.
That's how God
but that is how things don't change. You have to push as Nigerians. If something happens, you have to push. The hospital,
Let me take this call. Thanks for calling. Are you there?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Fidela. Welcome to the show. That's the first time for us today.
Yes, I want to ask about the maternal mortality in Nigeria. If it has anything to do with the age of the woman, maybe the time she got pregnant, maybe late 35 or late 30s or early 40s. If it has anything to do with the age of the woman.
Thank you, Fidela. The good question.
Well, so there's a tweet I would like you to address.
I wanted to answer that question first.
Okay, there are regional disparities at the age women first give birth. We know that in some of the northern states, women get married earlier and have more children and give birth earlier. And yes, there are sometimes adverse outcomes when women at a much younger age give birth because their bodies may not be fully ready. So yes, there is an element of that. But then across all the age spectrums, women have positive and negative outcomes when they're giving birth. So I wouldn't singularly say it's an age issue. I would say it's more of an access to health issue more than age.
Let me come to Mariam.
My mom is a nurse, and the community we lived in when I was growing up, we had like a lot of northern women who would not go to hospital, but instead would want to come to her to help them in delivery. And I know that because of that, she had helped educate women about going to the hospital. But there's this thing that she keeps talking about, that the men need to be educated, because the woman knows now what is meant to be done. But she cannot deny her husband culturally, culturally, as well as, religion expects them to be a certain way with their husbands. So does Health Watch, the project, does it have anything to do with educating and reorientating people, men especially?
You've raised a very important point that we haven't really discussed, because in as much as we tell women to go to health facilities, we are fully aware that in some communities, permission needs to be sought from the men, which is why a lot of our advocacy work will be across the community, in the communities. And yes, it's a tough one, and maternal mortality is not the only one. Family planning is also similar, on where men have to be part of the conversation in changing attitudes, where a lot of those deaths are unreported. So
do you have some kind of feedback mechanism? Because I know that I gave birth in 2 different places. Yes. My experience in the second place is totally different from the initial one. So if I have some kind of feedback mechanism where I can say, okay, you know what, this is what happened. Maybe you can then go into that hospital and say, have them to correct the mechanism of the way they used, the way they treated me in the first instance. I know what I went through, and I know the kind of pains, the issues, and I wish, who do I report to? But it was until I went to another hospital and saw how I was properly treated, and now I could understand the adverse effect I would have had if there had been complications in that first hospital. So does your organization provide some kind of way where we can communicate to you and say, okay, please go and inspect and find out what's going on in this hospital?
I think on that level, we as an organization, we're an NGO, but we don't have the remit to go to individual health facilities. But you should, I'm sure you've heard the Patient Bill of Rights, which was recently launched. And that guarantees that if you have any issues in any hospital, you have a right to complain. I think the problem we have in Nigeria is we see too many negative stories. And a lot of time, especially when it comes to maternal deliveries, people seek closure. You don't want to talk about it, you want to move on. That, I think, is part of the problem. Or people say, for other reasons, whatever.
That's how God
but that is how things don't change. You have to push as Nigerians. If something happens, you have to push. The hospital,
let me take this call. Thanks for calling. Are you there?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Fidela. Welcome to the show. Lots of first-time callers today.
Yes, I want to ask about the maternal mortality in Nigeria. If it has anything to do with the age of the woman, maybe the time she got pregnant, maybe late 35 or late 30s or early 40s. If it has anything to do with the age of the woman.
Thank you, Fidela. Good question.
Well, so there's a tweet I would like you to address.
I wanted to answer that question first.
Okay, there are regional disparities at the age women first give birth. We know that in some of the northern states, women get married earlier and have more children and give birth earlier. And yes, there are sometimes adverse outcomes when women at a much younger age give birth because their bodies may not be fully ready. So yes, there is an element of that. But then across all the age spectrums, women have positive and negative outcomes when they're giving birth. So I wouldn't singularly say it's an age issue. I would say it's more of an access to health issue more than age.
There's a question on Twitter I would like you to answer. Biliki says, I just saw a video this morning about the triplets whose young mother passed away a day after delivery. She had the babies at the proper mother and child hospital in Lagos, and no details of what could have, no details of what happened to her. Do you know what could have caused her death post-delivery?
One of the causes of maternal death is hypertension. Another one is postpartum hemorrhage, which is we mentioned when women bleed profusely immediately after birth. There are multiple reasons.
This is a proper hospital.
There are multiple reasons, even within proper hospitals. There are multiple reasons of how that could have happened. What you want in that case is to make sure that her journey through her pregnancy was well documented. It could have been she was bleeding and there wasn't blood. That's happened. That's some of the reasons women die in childbirth. So the exact reasons of that case, I'm not aware, but I do know of the story, and it is extremely tragic.
We have to go on a break, right? I want to be sure that we're all on the same page here. Yes. So what your initiative does is ensure that women go to the hospitals so that their details, their history is captured
reported.
So we can have
as
better
a
information
condition.
to be able to monitor what's going on and how much of our mothers are dying and not dying.
Because the question you asked is exactly the problem. We don't know why women are dying.
Right.
And if you don't know, then how do you
prevent
fix
it the next
How do you
time?
prevent it?
Okay, let's go on a break. When we come back, take some calls and tweets. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. Waiki, do you have any tweets?
Yeah, he says, yes, mortality is high in the hospitals. If a scientific research is conducted to compare maternal mortality between home and hospital, there might be surprises. Our hospital system needs to upgrade. Adeyemo Toyosi says, my parents run a clinic in a rural area, but most cases in use to see some of these streets are those cases of a woman.
My parents run a clinic in a rural area, but most cases we used to see are those cases of women who deliver at home, church, iyag baby, that's the traditional birth attendant with complications. But most of these complications often lead to losing of the child or mother. I guess those incompetent iyag baby, that's the mother, traditional birth attendant, should be punished. And Hayodeji Moloto says, please, can you help orientate our doctors and nurses because they are frustrating when talking or attending to patients? This push people to visit private hospitals or do self-medication.
I mean, that issue of doctors and what you call bedside manner, it's something that I think across the medical profession needs to be improved on, because that is one of the things that puts women off from giving birth. You know, it's a very difficult time, so you give birth to people you trust, so you'd rather go to a TBA than a doctor you don't even know.
Yeah, can you elaborate more on your foundation so the audience knows, you know, what you do?
What the end game is.
Yes, Nigeria Health Watch, as I mentioned, is a health communication advocacy organization. So we work across the broad spectrum of health issues, advocating for better access to healthcare, and more importantly, access to health funding.
Oh, not just maternal?
We work across immunization, polio, the whole spectrum of health issues. But maternal mortality, because of where we are now in this country, if we say that almost 20% of deaths of women dying are in Nigeria from childbirth, it is a crisis situation.
We talked about drug abuse earlier. Maybe you can help us look into that also. You can add that to your list.
We did a report actually last year on the codeine abuse, where we found an NGO in Kano that's helping to rehabilitate young
drug users.
This was before BBC went and did this documentary. And we know what happened when they did the documentary. A lot of people paid attention to the issue. But the health issues we work across are a broad spectrum.
It's still rampant too.
We are
this
aware.
Benelin thing. There is one that they do. They call it omigota.
We underestimated the issue, but you know, currently we're working on this project with Africa and EPI-Afrique on maternal mortality. And we're pushing for women to have better access to healthcare.
Thank you so much, madam, for coming.
Thank
you for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, the men should.
Men are always part of the equation, and we always know to talk to our men.
Thank you for coming to share your...
us on this table that we only talk about women, so I am now the advocate for men.
Men, take your women to hospital when they're in labor, please.
Thank you very much again for coming.
Thank you for having me on the show.
All right, that's all we can take on today's show. Don't forget, tomorrow's our live audience show. Please come early so you can get a seat. Have a fabulous day. See you then. Bye-bye.